Dios te bendiga. Buenos dias. ¿Cómo estás? That's about the extent of my Spanish. Yeah. I've been doing Spanish for about a year on Duolingo, and I still really struggle. I really struggle understanding it. So, Matthew says what I should do is start listening to Netflix. Some of my favorite shows, I only have a couple, like The Crown and, House of Cards. They probably took that off, though, because of Kevin Spacey. But anyway, that I should watch it with Spanish with no closed caption, and that really, really helped him be proficient and fluent in Spanish. So I guess that's what I'm going to need to do, because I've been doing Duolingo for more than a year, and still when people speak Spanish in rapid fire, I'm just like, what? Más despacio, por favor? Don't know. So frustrating. So anyway, Mission Colombia. Let me tell you, I've been doing mission trips for many, many years. And one of the big things I've learned about mission trips when we go on them is flexibility. Although I will say that this mission trip was probably one of the more organized ones, and one that we didn't have near as many obstacles thrown in our way as we normally do. So last year when we went on Mission Colombia, the first time we had gone there, and first of all, it's so interesting what God does and what the enemy does. I mean, who knows why the obstacles are there, but they're there. So originally the trip was supposed to be to Nicaragua, and we found out then the U.S. Department of State Department, whatever, started sending home Americans from Nicaragua because there was some unrest there. And so we kind of had to pull out, not do Nicaragua, and we planned on doing a medical mission to Colombia to help the Venezuelan refugees coming across the border, and giving them immunizations and, eye exams and, checking teeth and all that kind of stuff. Well, then this is really common. I know people, when they hear me say this, they're like, what? But basically the Colombian government didn't want us to bring in medical equipment. It's really odd, some of these governments, how they feel threatened when you bring in medical equipment and medical people, professionals. I'm not sure why. It makes a little bit more sense when you're in East Asia and some of those areas, but I don't know why in South America and Central America you would think that they would be glad that you're doing that. But anyway, so we had to bail from that at the last minute last year and just sort of wing it. And things went really well. And then this year it was even better because we knew that the medical wasn't going to be accepted. And so we knew that we would be doing VBS, and that we would just be going door to door and handing out food and having some worship services and basically witnessing for Christ. So, and also the lead pastor from San Cristobal, Venezuela was there too. And you could tell that he was much more of an administrator. Then the first day when he walked out and he said, we're going to go house to house until about 11:45. And then we're going to come back and have lunch, and then we're going to get ready for VBS, and then we'll have VBS from 2 to 4, and then at 4 o'clock we'll have a worship service with the parents of the VBS kids, and then we'll be back in the van by 5:45, 6 o'clock, and head back out to the hotel. I was like, a schedule? Wow. So, but there are a few things to clarify there. At lunch means a little piece of meat on white bread, white Wonder Bread. And I don't know how many of you out there are kind of watch the whole processed white bread, even wheat bread. Your glucose level goes way up. That's a misnomer that wheat bread is all that much better for you. It really isn't. And chips. I don't even eat that stuff. It's like garbage to me. So, so that's like your lunch. And then and we eat breakfast at the hotel. The hotel provides a pretty decent breakfast. And then, in fact, I would say that's the best meal of the day. And then we have agreed that the best place for dinner is just to go to the food court at the mall that's close by, because everybody can get what they want to get. And but the food is sort of, it's okay. It's food court food. And you have to be careful about eating any fresh vegetables because the water there will probably, for a lot of us, probably make us sick. And so nobody wants Montezumas or anything like that. So number one with mission trips is flexibility. You never know what's going to happen, and you just have to be flexible and just give it to God and let Him take care of the rest. And He will. He'll take care of it. You just got to go with it. And the next thing is that your eating plan, well, that's problematic. So when I've been on mission trips, that's probably about the worst I ever eat is on mission trips. You just have no control over it. And even in the United States, we'll bring in our big food truck that we do for disaster relief for first responders. And if you think about it, a disaster truck that is provided by the charities, it's comfort food, it's heavy food, it's filling food, because when you're dealing with firefighters and cops and people who are in action all day, that's what they need. They need high calories, they need all that. But when you're doing mission work, not as much. So anyway, so every time I've ever gone on a mission trip, I come back and I just kind of feel fat, really, gordo. I think that's fat in Spanish. Anyway, so I feel kind of big, heavy. I don't feel at my best. And so here's what I have learned as far as my health goes with that. You just got to go with it. I try to pack some of my own stuff, some of my own healthy protein bars and things like that. When I have control, I try to back off of some of the breads and the sugars and those kind of things so I can keep my blood sugar sort of even. Also, when I get back, I have learned no matter how painful it can be, the next morning jump on the scale. It's really painful to look at that weight when you're retaining fluids because of water that you retained and probably the high sodium type of stuff. But it also is a really good feeling when, 3 days later you see it come down pretty rapidly if you just kind of get back with it. And the other thing that I have learned is, you weigh what you weigh. It's just reality, and so that really helps me too, so that I don't get all wigged out about, oh my gosh, I weigh, 250 pounds, you weigh what you weigh. So, and the other thing that really works for me is going to the grocery store the very next day, planning out what I'm going to cook. I don't want to go out to eat. Now, normally my husband, especially if he wasn't with me on the trip, he'll say, hey, look, you want to go out? Because he's just trying to be sweet. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go out because I've been going out all week and I want to eat my own food at home. So I kind of plan out a menu, like 3 meals for the week that we can eat. Because if y'all are like me, we like leftovers, and there's only 2 of us now in the house. So, most recipes make around 4 for 4 servings. So, we'll always have leftovers. So I plan out what are we going to eat. I also plan, another trick is that, how when you've been vacationing and you've probably eaten too much, and your brain and your stomach are kind of used to that amount of food. So you'll find that you think that you're hungry, or that you get these like hunger pains because psychologically you've been used to eating all this stuff that you normally don't eat. So another thing that I do is I will buy like cucumbers and I will slice those up and keep them sliced in the fridge. And so if I'm feeling like, oh, I want to go munch on something that's really not healthy, or eat something that I know I don't think is good for me, I'll just say, okay, well, maybe I'll allow myself to have that, but first I'm going to eat a handful of these sliced cucumbers. And it works like a charm every time. After I eat those cucumbers, I don't want the goldfish that may have been left in the pantry by, my son when he left for college, or whatever that's there. Which brings to another point, your environment. The best way to be successful is not to have the garbage in your house. Now, if you have kids, that can be a challenge because you're going to need to have some of those snacky things like the goldfish or something. But if you are by yourself, or it's just you and your spouse most of the time, it's not going to hurt them not to have snacks like, the goldfish or other garbage stuff. Nutella I don't keep in my house. I know it's a bad thing. Chips and salsa, don't keep in my house. Can't, that's just not good for me, and it makes it too tempting. So I kind of purge all that stuff, and it really, really makes a difference. So when I come back from a mission trip, I know that I've probably put on a few pounds. That's okay. That's going to happen. And the key is just to get right back on it the very next day. Get on the scale, weigh yourself, take the bad news. It's okay, because in 3 or 4 days, you're going to see that weight come right back down, because it's just water weight. And then just get right back on plan. And it makes it so much easier. And I am learning so much about neuroplasticity with our brain. And so when we eat off of whatever program that we're on, when we eat off of our plan, we are giving ourselves permission to do that more and more and more, because our brain starts wiring itself that that's okay. It's not about cheating. It's not about the calories. It's not about that. It's about, am I giving myself the signal that that's okay? But the good news is that conversely, it works the other way. So whenever you're tempted, if you can eat those, handful of cucumbers or whatever it is that you're going to use to help you from eating the goldfish or the Nutella or whatever it is around that is tempting you. And the more times that you're successful with that, the easier it gets, because again, your brain is remembering that action, and the neuroplasticity in our brains is very, very powerful, and that has helped me more than it's all about. Sorry, I just got a phone call, so I had to hang up on them. Instead of thinking that I'm cheating and just this one time and these calories aren't going to hurt me, it's not about that. It's about don't give yourself permission to do that. Have a different plan, have something else, have a backup, have a way to change your behavior, whether it's journaling about it, whether it's walking to the mailbox, walking down the street to the stop sign, whatever it is. Have a different plan, and then that way you can check yourself. Drink a glass of water. Most of the time we're just thirsty. So happy Tuesday, everybody, and stay dry. Hasta luego. Ciao.